Deep, 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 deep. Go there. Deep, deep. Deep. Hello, hello, hello. Beautiful creatures of the internet. I am Mango Jones. I have really bad anxiety, so I'm streaming. Tonight we're going to do part 3 of the Murdaugh timeline because, well, Murdaugh timeline. It's one of those things. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping things. Down in the description, you will find the links to the rest of the stream pervs, the people that I share a StreamYard with, people like Slim Living Cyborg, Pie Parrot, who has wonderfully funny game streams, Dungeon Queen, Vila Vendetta, Widow Sun, Sir Little Wolf, lovely, lovely folks. You will also find the master list of U.S. resources for all of your resource needs, like reproductive health, LGBTQIA plus resources, domestic violence. If you're in that situation, you need to get out. There's resources. Also in the description is my LinkTree of Things. For some strange reason, LinkTree doesn't recognize my Cash App anymore. It's like being a valid address. So, yeah. I have a Cash App. If you'd like to support the channel, I'll put the banner up. There's like no one here right now. There we go. Do that one. Aha. Success. There's still like no one here. What's this show? Okay, so. For those of you that watch in the replay gang, let's go ahead and get started. So, we left off last time, June 21st. Oh, yeah, other housekeeping thing before we get started. I'm not going to be here this weekend. I am going to be gone. My anxiety is really high because, again, I'm flying tomorrow. So, yeah. If anyone would like to buy me airport food and stuff, hit the Cash App, Baby Killer Mango. Yeah, it's a thing. I'm so excited. Anyway. All right, so last we left off, it was September 21st. SLED released the second update in the Murdaugh investigations and released the redacted supplemental reports, which we went over, at least some of. So that leads us into June 22nd, 2021. It was announced that SLED was reopening the investigation into the death of Stephen Smith based on information gathered during the Murdaugh double murder investigation. They would not say what information was found in the Murdaugh investigation or how it related to Stephen Smith. As I went over in part 1, investigators said he was the victim of a hit and run. There was no evidence of it being a hit and run, and the cops never followed up on any leads with the Murdaughs. Quote, "We've been waiting on this forever. Stephen's always been put on the back burner. It's like nobody's looking for answers. Stephen had no justice." End quote. His mother, Sandy Smith. The Island Packet put out another article in an attempt to dispel rumors about and correct misinformation circulating about the Murdaughs. In this article, we learned Paul Murdaugh never violated his bond from 2019, as he literally had no bond conditions to violate. Nothing so far has connected the death of Stephen Smith or Gloria Satterfield to the deaths of Paul and Maggie. Paul did not slap and spit on Mallory Beach before crashing the boat. He did slap and spit on Morgan Dowdy, his girlfriend at the time, during an argument about going home instead of continuing the boat ride, and he did yell at Mallory after she expressed to Keith Anthony Cook, her boyfriend, that she was scared about Murdaugh's driving. Paul was not in court the morning of the murders. No one had yet been named a suspect, And the woman that jumped off the Broad River Bridge on June 8th was not related to anyone in the Murdaugh or Mallory Beach cases. Yeah, the Broad River Bridge is like actually really popular for people wanting to unalive. So that's a thing. June 25th. Okay. Aha. Amanda Loveday, spokeswoman for the Murdaugh family, released a statement about a $100,000 reward offered by Alex and Buster in connection with the murders. The statement included a message from Alex, which read, "I want to thank everyone for the incredible love and support that we have received over the last few weeks. Now is the time to bring justice for Maggie and Paul. Buster and I, along with Maggie's mother, father, and our entire family, ask that anyone with helpful information immediately call the SLED tip line or Crime Stoppers." The statement also said that the PMPED law firm will administer the reward. The total reward amount will be allocated equally among all persons who provide information that leads to the arrest and conviction of the person or persons responsible for the crimes, and to be eligible, the person cannot be a law enforcement personnel, and the tip must be submitted on or before September 31st, 2021. That is a really weird deadline to have. It's just, it's baffling. Why do you have such a deadline for something like this? I don't know. Anyway. So, not much else happened in, like, the rest of June. Oh no. Did a thing. But, uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, here we go. Uh-huh. I got this. So, July 7th, 2021, Connor Cook filed a notice of Rule 27 petition and Rule 27 petition for relief in Richland County, South Carolina. Rule 27 in this case is South Carolina Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 27, titled Depositions Before Action or Pending Appeal. This is typically filed by a person who wants to provide testimony before a suit is filed. It generally precedes a lawsuit filing. The filing says that the following list of law enforcement officers who investigated the boat crash may have information on a collusion to blame Connor Cook for the crash instead of Paul Murdaugh. Former SCDNR officer and current South Carolina law enforcement agent Michael Brock, SCDNR officer Austin Pritchard, Beaufort County Sheriff's Office Sergeant John Leroy Keener III, former SCDNR officer Robin Camlin, Beaufort County Sheriff's Office Sergeant Troy Andrew Krebs. If a judge approves the order, Cook's attorneys will ask the law enforcement officers about the boat crash investigation, statements collected from the boat crash passengers on body cameras and other video and audio footage, physical evidence collected, DNA and other biological evidence collected, phone, verbal, and other communications throughout the investigation, investigative failures and deficiencies, and the officer's relationship to the people involved in the investigation. Cook believes law enforcement officers failed to conduct an appropriate investigation. According to the petition, Brock, Pritchard, Kenner, Camlin, and Crafts may have information as to the, quote, campaign to cloud the investigatory issues and disseminate false information in the community with the intention of misleading law enforcement and prosecution charging parties and the public into wrongly and falsely believing Connor Cook should be arrested and charged as the boat operator with multiple counts of felony boating under the influence. July 22nd, 2021, SLED put out another press release and new materials in the Murdaugh murder investigation. The release reads, quote, "In the interest of transparency, SLED is now releasing digitally redacted audio of the 911 call by Alex Murdaugh. SLED is also releasing the redacted computer-aided dispatch, CAD, report in this matter. We will continue to evaluate other materials in this case and will release additional information at the appropriate time." Now, the redacted CAD report tells us that Alex is the one that called in. Alex's address is the Holly Street address, the one that, like, there was an alleged attempted arson at. Maggie and Paul's address is the commercial hunting property that is Moselle. The vehicles at the property at the time were the 2001 Suburban and the 2019 Silverado, and both are owned by PMPED and not Alex. Like, he does not own those vehicles. Hey, Lizard. Nice to see you. The CAD report also tells us who the responders were, who was dispatched, and when. Unit response times. And the mostly redacted tow call information. And following this release, we actually didn't have anything big happen with the investigations or anything like that until, really? August 11th, 2021. Why is there just a blank slide there? Okay. Anyway, August 11th is when Alex and his lawyer bestie and money theft co-conspirator Corey Fleming meet up with investigators in regard to the murder investigation. I'll watch a tiny bit of it. Tiny bit.
Did you see any long guns? Take your time.
It's not that.
Did you see any rifles or shotguns?
I don't remember seeing any that day, no. We did have pistols.
Yeah, because I know you said you went target practicing.
Well, not really target practice, just shoot.
Yeah.
We rode around for a couple hours, just looked at everything. All the stuff Paul did on the farm. And we just spent, time together. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. You can do this?
I can do it. We started out going to look at the sunflowers because we was worried about sunflowers. That was the first thing we looked at. And then we just rode. We just rode and looked at. I mean, we hadn't done it in a while. We just rode, talked, and rode, talked.
We'll talk about
Everything, just one of the main things, he'd been having trouble, his feet had swelled up, and we were worried about blood pressure and stress on him. And I mean, he handled all this stuff so amazingly, but I mean, we were just so worried about it. But I mean, we talked about that, we talked about the farm, we just talked about everything.
Has Paul been seeing a doctor for this feet?
No, sir.
We're not trying to get him to go.
Trying to get him to go.
He was resistant.
Yeah, he had been resistant.
If your son is having issues with his feet, so much so that they're swollen and might be blood pressure related, it is no, he's resistant to go to the doctor. You take him to the fucking hospital and have them fucking take a look at him. You have lawyer money. You can do that. Allegedly. But But anyway, yeah. So this is the interview where they showed him the Snapchat video from the day of the murders in which he was wearing a different outfit than the one that Blanca saw him wearing and the one that he was actually seen in at Alameda and by the responding officers. Not cool, bro. Not cool. Oh, I said go. No, stop it. There we go. So on August 11th, Solicitor Duffy Stone quietly recused himself from the investigation with a letter that read, "Dear Attorney General Wilson, considering the events of today's SLED investigation of the homicides of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh, I am asking that you assume all prosecutorial functions in this matter effective immediately. By copy of this letter, I am informing Chief Mark Keel of my decision to recuse myself from prosecuting these cases." Mind you, it does not say what happened, but we can safely assume, based off of the video that we saw from the 11th, that it has to do with that. We also learned from an article in the Hampton County Guardian that PMPED received a PPP loan, the amount of which was not disclosed. But they got a PPP loan. Like, why? I get that, things slowed down, but at the same time, people were filing so many pieces of legal paperwork in the Mallory Beach case that you would just assume that, like, lawsuits were popping. Like, it was a thing that was not really affected. I guess not. Now, August 12th, it was announced that the charges against Paul Murdaugh in the boat crash from 2019 had been dropped by the Attorney General's office as a formality. Because, good luck trying to charge someone who has passed away. The South Carolina Department of Natural Resources released the 911 call from the Mallory Beach boat crash. Also released that day the last video of the teens before they boated the boat for the final time. The redacted reports from the initial investigation of the boat, which are, I showed y'all some of that, and the redacted reports from interviews with hospital personnel, also showed you. On August 19th, 2021, an anonymous person created a GoFundMe called True Justice for Paul and Maggie Murdaugh. This GoFundMe had a goal of $650,000 and was from a, quote, concerned citizen who wanted to hire private investigators and research the killings of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh, Mallory Beach, and Stephen Smith. The GoFundMe raised only $55 before it was suspended by the website for violating the terms of service. You know what? Yeah, they voted the board. My bad. Any hoozle. I'm not going to live that one down. Thank you. Yeah. Voted the board. August 25th, 2021. It was confirmed by South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson's office that the 14th Circuit Solicitor Duffy Stone had recused himself from the Murdaugh murders investigation. South Carolina defense attorney and former solicitor Susan Williams said of the situation that, quote, Duffy Stone has the wherewithal and ethical background to make the right decision, and I think he made the right decision. Neither Stone nor a spokesperson for his office would comment or clarify what new events led to the decision. August 27th, 2021. Alex Murdaugh gives up his rights to handle his son, Paul Terry Murdaugh's estate. Randolph Randy Murdaugh IV, Alex's brother, is on the paperwork as wanting to handle the estate. September 2nd, 2021, Colleton County probate judge Ashley H. Amundsen certified Randolph Randy Murdaugh IV's application to represent the estate of Paul Murdaugh. September 3rd, 2021. Okay, I'm going to tell y'all right now. A shit ton happened in September. September was a ridiculous month. And that's why this stream is primarily focused on just the events of September. And once I'm done going through the events of September, I'm going to go take a shower. I'm going to finish packing my bag because, like, I got to go to the airport in, like, 8 hours. Anyway. So, September 3rd, 2021. Solicitor Stone speaks publicly for the first time regarding his decision to recuse himself from the Murdaugh murder investigation. He said that his relationship with the Murdaughs had nothing to do with his stepping aside. Quote, I believed a prosecutor's relationship with a victim or a relationship with a witness does not necessarily conflict the office out of prosecuting the case. Stone consulted Dr. Greg Adams, legal ethics professor at the University of South Carolina, before stepping aside as it was, quote, an ethical issue. I did not change my mind, but there were events that took place that changed the circumstances. Unfortunately, I can't tell you what those matters of the investigation were, what the circumstances were, but the circumstances changed. So vague. Stone would not answer any questions as to what caused the change in circumstances, whether it was evidence or potential suspects. When asked why he immediately recused himself from Paul's boat accident, but waited on this one, he said, quote, there are no similarities between the two cases. I knew from the very beginning I could not prosecute Paul Murdaugh. People who I was connected to, people from my office, were connected to the case. Also, on June 3rd, Alex Murdaugh is allegedly confronted about misappropriated funds at his law firm, prompting him to resign. I say allegedly again because we don't actually know what happened. We have no clue. But I digress. September 4th, 2021. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division reports they are investigating a shooting that happened off Old Salkehatchie Road that afternoon. Alex Murdaugh had allegedly been shot in the head while changing his tire. Alex called 911 himself. And we have all of those calls. There were 3 of them. There were 3.
Hampton County 911, where's your emergency?
On Salkehatchie Road.
Okay, what's the address on Salkehatchie Road?
I'm by the church.
What church? What church are you talking about?
I don't know the name of it with the red roof.
Okay, what end of Salkehatchie Road? Because I don't know what you're talking about.
At the Hampton County side.
Okay, what's going on?
I got a flat tire,
Mhm.
and I stopped, and somebody stopped to help me. And when I turned my back, they tried to shoot me.
Oh, okay. Were you shot?
Yes, but
Okay.
I mean, I'm okay.
You shot where? Where were you shot at?
Huh?
Did they actually shoot you or they tried to shoot you?
They shot me, but
Okay, wait, you need EMS?
well, I mean, yes, I can't drive.
Okay.
I'm trouble seeing, and I'm bleeding a lot.
Where part of your body?
I'm not sure. It's somewhere on my head.
Your head?
Somewhere on my head. Somebody just stopped for me, ma'am. For 911.
Okay. Still?
Hey.
Okay, let me speak to him, see if he can tell me exactly where you are.
Where are we talking at you, brother? That church? Okay. Red roof. Yeah, hurry, please.
Okay, and what's your name? I'm still here. I'm still on the line with you. What's your name?
Alex Murdaugh.
Alex Murdaugh?
Yes, ma'am.
And you see you were driving, you got a flat tire, somebody stopped to help you and they shot you?
Well, they pulled over, yes, ma'am, like they were going to help me.
Okay, stay on the line with me. We're going to get some.
I'm bleeding pretty bad.
Okay. Stay on
St. John's Missionary Church.
St. John Missionary Church?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And can you give me a description of the person that shot you or shot at you?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, it was a white fella. I'd say
A
younger
white
than me,
male?
a fair amount younger than me. Really, really short hair. You have an ambulance coming, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Stay on the line. I got them on the way.
You think one of y'all can drive me to the hospital? Yes, sir. You want to get the truck though, because I got a baby and needs to be on the back. One of y'all could get in this car and drive me? Yes, sir. They're gonna drive me to the hospital. Ma'am? Ma'am?
I'm still here, sir. They're on the way. Don't hang up.
Yeah, it should be cranked, and that puts it in drive. Okay. Okay, now it is.
911, where's your emergency?
Yes, ma'am, I lost you. This young lady is driving me to the hospital.
She's carrying you to the hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And who is this?
This is Alex Murdaugh. I was on the phone a minute ago.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
They said he said there's somebody taking him to the hospital. Okay.
Oh, you know what? We got a flat tire.
Got you, 10-12.
Ma'am, I need the ambulance.
You need the ambulance? Okay. Are you still in the same location?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Which way are y'all heading? Are y'all driving down the road?
No, ma'am.
No.
I got a flat tire.
Okay. All right. Sit tight right there, okay? Okay.
Ma'am?
Okay. Yes, sir. We're still here. We're still here. Hold on. We're dispatching now, giving them information. Where are you at?
I don't want to get this all over your car. All right, now they're taking me to the hospital.
Okay. So which way are y'all traveling?
We're coming down Salthatchee Road to the Hampton Hospital.
Y'all coming down Salkehatchie?
Ma'am?
Y'all coming down Salkehatchie Road to to the hospital?
He was very insulted by the fact that, like, she had to question if it was a house. It's a house! But no, this one is all of his stuff from the shooting September 4th. By the way, ABC News 4, get your shit together. The shooting happened on the 4th, not the 3rd. The 3rd was the day that he allegedly resigned from PMPED. Thank you.
Hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They said
that they're coming down. They're coming down Salkehatchie Road heading towards the hospital. But all right, we're gonna keep EMS en route to you. Okay.
Okay.
Are you coming off of Walterbur Highway?
We'll be at Waterbur Highway in 10 minutes or so.
They said in about 10 minutes or so they'll be at Waterbur Highway. What kind of vehicle are you in?
White Nissan Rogue.
It's a white Nissan Rogue. They're clear here, right? No, they still are. Okay. Victor. Okay. Okay, you still with me?
Hello?
All right, you still with us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, we're gonna hold on to the line. Where did it? Mhm.
Hello?
Hey, we're still here. We're still here. Hold.
Having a hard time hearing you.
Yes, sir. Hold on just one moment. All right, we got they're heading out there towards you, okay? Okay. All right. And y'all still heading down the road, Mr. Murdaugh?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, y'all still heading down the road?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. And what's a good callback for you, Mr. Murdaugh?
We're at Lightsey Crossroads now.
You're at LinkTree Crossroads now? Okay, Mr. Murdaugh, hold on tight for me, okay?
Now, keep in mind, this dude hired a private helicopter, like a private medical helicopter, to fly him.
And y'all on Walterboro Highway?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Cops haven't even made it to the scene yet. And he's already away from it, getting a private helicopter.
Victor 1 dispatch. Temple, be advised they're on Walterboro Highway in a white Nissan Rogue. White Nissan Rogue. Is the flashers on? Do you have the... No, Temple, at this time, they're still 1017 to the hospital.
Ma'am?
Y'all still on the... Okay. Y'all still 17. Do you have your flashers on the vehicle? Is the flashers on?
Okay, so Jim Griffin, Alex's lovely yes man / defense lawyer, initially said that Alex was airlifted to MUSC, the Medical University of South Carolina, in Charleston, but later in subsequent interviews changed it to Savannah Memorial Hospital. Griffin told news outlets that doctors determined that he had a skull fracture and was in blood. Of the injury, he said there were entry and exit wounds from the bullet, and he described the injury as significant. He also spoke with numerous members of the Murdaugh family, allegedly, who said he was conscious, alert, and talking, which is a good sign, and that Alex was lucky to be alive. In a statement, a spokesperson for the Murdaugh family said, "The Murdaugh family has suffered through more than any one family could ever imagine, and we expect Alex to recover and ask for your privacy while he recovers." SLED said that Alex had suffered a superficial wound to the head. The initial police report, which is right here, visible injury, no. They said there was no visible injury. They also said that victim 1 was not using drugs or alcohol. On September 4th, 2021, Hampton County Sheriff's Office deputies were dispatched to Old Salkehatchie Highway in the Varnville area of Hampton, in reference to a shooting incident. While en route, deputies learned the victim, later identified as Alex Murdaugh, had been shot in the head and was being flown out from a landing zone on Charleston Highway to the hospital. Corporal Henderson met with the victim before he was flown out, while I, Sergeant White, secured the scene of the crime until Hampton County Sheriff's Office and SLED investigators arrived. Further investigation required. So that's what the report says. All of this is contradictory to what Attorney Griffin told reporters and news outlets and everyone. Again, the best yes man should not be your defense attorney. But I digress. Now, according to the Savannah Hospital record from that day, Alex had, upon first examination, 2 superficial appearing bullet wounds to the back of the head, specifically described as the posterior scalp, and no other external signs of trauma. However, a CT scan revealed that he had a small subdural hemorrhage and subarachnoid hemorrhage. A subdural hemorrhage, also called a subdural hematoma, is bleeding just between the brain and the dura, which is the protective layer of tissue around the brain. A subarachnoid hemorrhage is acute bleeding on the surface of the brain caused by a burst blood vessel, a ruptured brain aneurysm. Now, severe head injuries can cause subarachnoid bleeding, but that's diagnosed as a traumatic subarachnoid hemorrhage. It was not distinguished as traumatic, it was distinguished as just small. When paired with the note that the patient's wife and son were recently murdered in June, it's fair to deduce that the subdural hemorrhage was likely caused by the gunshots, while the stress of literally everything else caused the brain aneurysm to rupture and the subarachnoid hemorrhage. Also of note in the hospital paperwork, they performed a urinalysis on September 5th. And because it is a qualitative screen, it will detect as positive based on the amount that is in your system at the time. So, here's the cutoff levels. This is, you have to be below these levels to be able to read as negative. So, amphetamines, he read as negative because he read it 242.42 ng per milliliter. Barbiturates, he was positive. For barbiturates, the cutoff level is 200. His was reading at 433.73. Benzos, he tested negative, but he had a little bit less than 85. Cocaine, also tested negative, less than 50. Opiates does not have an amount given, but opiates are given as a pain reliever for subarachnoid hemorrhage, so they knew that he would test positive for it given the circumstances, so they did not test for a specific level. It would not have mattered. They were giving him opiates. THC, he tested negative, but he did have less than 5. So, yeah, in his system, when he went to the hospital on September 4th/5th for the staged shooting, he had amphetamine, barbiturates, benzodiazepine, cocaine, opiates, and marijuana in his system. I suppose you got to do what you got to do when your family is murdered by you. Just thought. Now, September 6th, 2021, Amanda Loveday of NP Strategy, a public relations firm in Columbia, South Carolina, issued a statement on behalf of Murdaugh around 2:30 in the afternoon. It reads, quote, "The murders of my wife and son have caused an incredibly difficult time in my life. I have made a lot of decisions that I truly regret. I'm resigning from my law firm and entering rehab after a long battle that has been exacerbated by these murders. I am immensely sorry to everyone I've hurt, including my family, friends, and colleagues. I ask for prayers as I rehabilitate myself and my relationships." Loveday did not respond in regards to the location of the rehab or if the rehab was for drugs or alcohol. PMPED released their own statement the same day, which reads, quote, "On Friday, September 3rd, 2021, Alex Murdaugh resigned from the law firm. He is no longer associated with PMPED in any manner. His resignation came after the discovery by PMPED that Alex misappropriated funds in violation of PMPED standards and policies. A forensic accounting firm will be retained to conduct a thorough investigation. Law enforcement and the South Carolina Bar have been notified by PMPED. This is disappointing news for all of us. Rest assured that our firm will deal with this in a straightforward manner. There's no place in our firm for such behavior. Due to the ongoing investigations into these matters and client confidentiality, PMPED cannot comment further at this time. We encourage any client with questions to contact our offices regarding their file." As of that evening, the firm's website had been taken offline with a page that said its contents were temporarily unavailable. September 7th, 2021. Jeff Kidd, spokesman for the 14th Circuit Solicitor's Office, announced that the office was drafting a formal letter to Alex Murdaugh. In this letter, he would be notified that he is no longer authorized to volunteer for the solicitor's office and is barred from prosecuting cases on its behalf. The decision to do this came from Solicitor Duffy Stone after the accusations from the law firm about Alex misappropriating funds and the news of Alex entering rehab came out. According to the solicitor's office, Alex hasn't prosecuted a case for them since 2019, and the letter was, quote, "a way to formalize the ending of a relationship that really has not been in effect since 2019. Two unnamed sources in the legal community told reporters that the amount missing from PMPED was substantial and in excess of $1 million. Jim Griffin, Alex's attorney, confirmed that Alex resigned after being accused of diverting lawyer fees from the firm, but he has admitted no guilt. He said the allegations caused him to confront substance abuse issues that have spanned many years, but declined to identify the substance in question. The Hampton County Sheriff's Office put out an official press release on their Facebook page in regard to the September 4th shooting of Alex Murdaugh. In it, we learned officers were dispatched at approximately 1:55 p.m. They were informed that the victim, Alex, had a gunshot wound to the head and was being flown out from a landing zone on Charleston Highway for further treatment, and Hampton County secured the scene until SLED arrived and took over the investigation. September 8th, 2021. Randy releases a statement in regards to the accusations against Alex and his current happenings. Quote, "I was shocked, just as the rest of my PMPED family, to learn of my brother Alex's drug addiction and stealing of money. I love my law firm family and also love Alex as my brother. While I will support him in his recovery, I do not support, condone, or excuse his conduct in stealing by manipulating his most trusted relationships. I will continue to pursue my client's interests with the highest degree of honesty and integrity, as I always have." The South Carolina Supreme Court issued an order suspending Alex Murdaugh's license to practice law until further notice. The request to suspend came from the Office of Disciplinary Counsel, who is in charge of investigating complaints against lawyers and judges, as well as prosecuting when required, either because of ethical misconduct or the lawyer judge in question is suffering from a physical or mental condition which adversely affects their ability to serve the public. A Liz Pendens was filed in Hampton County in regards to the Moselle property and the Edisto property by Mark Tinsley. A Liz Pendens is a notice recorded in a real property's chain of title, which allows third parties interested in the property, like potential buyers, to know the existence and scope of pending litigation affecting the title to or asserting a mortgage, lien, security interest, or other interest in real property. The notice warns all persons that any interests acquired during the pendency of the suit are subject to its outcome. So basically, should Moselle or the Edisto property be put on the market while the Liz Pendens is in place, the interested buyers would have access to all of the information regarding the pending Mallory Beach wrongful death lawsuit. On September 9th, 2021, the Hampton County Sheriff's Department released the initial report from the September 4th shooting. When questioned about the box being checked no beside visible injury, Sheriff T.C. Smalls said it was a clerical error. Also a clerical error was the report saying Alex had not been using drugs or alcohol when it should have said unknown. A second, corrected report was released a few hours later. On this report, other major injury was written in beside the visible injury checkboxes, where yes was marked off. The report also stated that Corporal Henderson was able to meet up with Alex before he was flown out, which was a direct contradiction to the Facebook press release from 2 days prior. Not included in the report from Hampton County or SLED, Jim Griffin's detail that Alex was changing a tire when he was shot. Jim Griffin, in an email to People magazine, said that Alex was bleeding and suffered significant head trauma after getting shot while changing a tire. He also said, quote, I understand that the sheriff has clarified this no visible sign of injury entry to some reporters. In any event, when the deputies arrived, Alex Murdaugh was not at the scene. He was picked up by a Good Samaritan who drove him toward the hospital. They ultimately met up with the ambulance on the highway where he was examined, and because of the extent of his injuries, the EMTs called for him to be airlifted to the hospital. He had significant head trauma, and there was blood at the scene, which is indicated by the evidence cones placed in the roadway. I understand that most of the cones mark blood. I presume that the deputy checked the no visible sign of injury on the incident report because he was not able to assess Alex since Alex had left the scene before the deputy arrived. This, of course, is like new information. No one reported that he had left the scene prior to law enforcement arriving, and still contradicts the SLED update of Alex having superficial wounds. This also does not match the Savannah Hospital record. September 10th, 2021, Amanda Loveday, the Murdaugh spokeswoman, said the following in regard to the shooting. Quote, there has been some misreporting regarding Alex Murdaugh and his shooting on September 4th, so we wanted to clear up a number of facts from that day. After the shooting, Alex had an entry and exit wound. His skull was fractured, and it was not a self-inflicted bullet wound. Alex pulled over after seeing a low tire indicator light. A male driver in a blue pickup truck asked him if he had car troubles. As soon as Alex replied, he was shot. We know that SLED is continuing to work diligently to find this person and the person or people that murdered Maggie and Paul Murdaugh. On September 13th, 2021, SLED officially puts out a press release announcing the opening of an investigation into the allegations of misappropriated funds by Alex Murdaugh. While the press release does not offer too many details, we do know that it is from the allegations publicly levied by PMPED. Also included is a statement from Chief Mark Keel, which reads in part, quote, SLED is committed to conducting a professional, thorough, and impartial criminal investigation no matter where the facts may lead us. SLED spokesman Tommy Crosby later issued a brief statement which said, quote, the PMPED firm made SLED aware of the allegation of the alleged theft of funds by Alex Murdaugh on September 4th, 2021, and an investigation was subsequently initiated. Which means that the day Alex was allegedly shot on the side of the road, SLED began its investigation into the missing funds. The day after Alex was allegedly confronted and resigned. And I say allegedly because while we know that's what was being testified to in court and that's what is being claimed, we don't actually know that that is what happened. We also know that they claim millions were misappropriated, but the incident or the indictment that he received in regards to PMPED does not match up with that claim, but more on that in a bit. Probably next stream. SLED stating that an investigation was subsequently initiated after PMPED made them aware of the alleged theft also doesn't make sense, as it directly contradicts the press release from PMPED stating that they were going to hire a forensic accountant first and that they had notified law enforcement and the bar, but that they hadn't started their investigations yet. So what is it? It makes zero sense. But we do know for a fact that on September 13th, the investigation was officially opened. All the lies, all the fuckery. All of it, constantly. On September 14th, 2021, attorney Eric Bland tells reporters that he is representing Gloria Satterfield's sons. In the last week, he had sent notice of representation to attorney Corey Fleming in the quest for, quote, truth and answers for the sons. Quote, we're not saying that anything has been done wrong. We just need answers for those two boys, one of them who has special needs, and the answer should be very clear. In the notice, Bland had demanded records to answer the following questions. How were the attorney fees paid? How was distribution of the settlement funds paid? Why did the case settle for this amount? He had not received a response from Fleming as of September 14th. We know from the filed 2018 documents that Lloyds of London had paid out $500,000 in personal liability in the wrongful death and $5,000 for medical payments stemming from the incident. Satterfield's sons were the only beneficiaries listed, with Chad Westendorf of Palmetto State Bank being listed as the personal representative of the estate. The settlement said that Fleming's law firm received $177,500 of the total sum. Judge Perry Buckner, the same judge who recused himself from the Mallory Beach lawsuit, signed off on the settlement. SLED put out a press release stating that they had arrested a man in connection with the Alex Murdaugh September 4th shooting incident. The man arrested was Curtis Edward Eddie Smith from Colleton County, and he was charged with assisted suicide, assault and battery of a high and aggravated nature, pointing and presenting a firearm, insurance fraud, and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. They also charged him with 2 unrelated crimes, distribution of methamphetamine and possession of marijuana. SLED stated that additional charges in the September 4th incident were expected and would be announced at the appropriate time. Also included with the press release were the warrants and affidavits for each crime. In these affidavits, we learned that Alex had provided a firearm to Curtis Smith for the purpose of Smith shooting him in the head and killing him, so that a death benefit from insurance could be paid to the beneficiary of the insured. After shooting Alex in the head, Curtis went to an unknown location and disposed of the firearm, but Alex survived the shooting and was transported to the hospital for treatment. Alex provided a statement to SLED on September 13th, the same day that SLED announced they were opening investigation into the misappropriated PMPED funds, admitting to the scheme of having Curtis murder him for the purpose of Buster collecting a life insurance policy valued at roughly $10 million. On September 14th, Curtis admitted to being present during the shooting and disposing of the firearm, which of course caused the affidavits and warrants. September 15th, 2021, Jim Griffin and Dick Poot, as I like to say, Dick Poot, released a statement early in the morning that read, quote, "On September 4th, it became clear Alex believed that ending his life was his only option. Today he knows that's not true. For the last 20 years, there have been many people feeding his addiction to opioids. During that time, these individuals took advantage of his addiction and his ability to pay substantial funds for illegal drugs. One of those individuals took advantage of his mental illness and agreed to take Alex's life by shooting him in the head. Fortunately, Alex was not killed by the gunshot wound. Alex is fully cooperating with SLED in their investigations into his shooting, opioid use, and the search to find the person or people responsible for the murder of his wife and son. Alex is not without fault, but he is just one of many whose life has been devastated by opioid addiction." End quote. Multiple news outlets who reported on the statement also reported that court records show Curtis Smith was Murdaugh's former client, whom Murdaugh represented in at least two different situations: a 2010 personal injury lawsuit against a land management company and a 2013 traffic infraction. Eric Bland filed a summons and complaint with demand for jury trial against Richard Alexander Murdaugh, Chad Westendorf, Palmetto State Bank, Corey Fleming, and the Moss, Kuhn and Fleming law firm. The summons and complaint states that the brothers are looking for real answers to their questions surrounding the death of their mother and the disposition of the monies supposedly paid for their benefits. The suit also alleges that Gloria was proud of her association with the Murdaughs and that Alex Murdaugh made her think and feel that she was part of the family. Due to the trust Gloria had in the Murdaughs, Tony, one of her sons, trusted in Alex to, quote, take care of them, as he said he would, and help the boys to sue him. Tony and Brian, the sons, were not involved in any of the settlement negotiations. They were never told that a settlement had been reached. They never saw any of the settlement money, and they did not know that a settlement had ever been reached, especially with Alex telling them that there were no updates and it was being worked on until it had been reported in the media. The two exhibits submitted with the summons and complaint were the 2018 petition for settlement that I showed you earlier in part one. And in October 2020 stipulation of dismissal, the dismissal states that the parties, Chad Westendorf as personal representative of the estate of Gloria Satterfield and Alex Murdaugh, had settled their differences and the matter is no longer an issue. The problem with this filing being that Alex Murdaugh signed the dismissal, not a lawyer from the insurance company hired to represent him in the matter, and the dismissal was a partial dismissal, which means that there was a possibility of there being other insurance claims filed in Gloria's death. There were 6 cause of actions listed. A cause of action is a set of predefined factual elements to allow for a legal remedy in the suit, and they were, for all defendants, accounting, as Brian and Tony were not provided any accounting from any person involved in the wrongful death settlement. For Westendorf and Palmetto State Bank, breach of fiduciary duty. For Fleming and the Moss, Kuhn and Fleming law firm, aiding and abetting breach of fiduciary duty. For all defendants, civil conspiracy. For all defendants, conversion. Okay. So, conversion is an intentional tort which occurs when a party takes the chattel property of another with the intent to deprive them of it. It does not apply to, quote, real property like land or personal physical property. And I'm going to do my best to explain what the fuck that means. So let's start with some definitions. As I said before, A tort is an act or omission that gives rise to injury or harm to another and amounts to a civil wrong for which courts impose liability. So an intentional tort is an act omission that is purposely done by a defendant to cause harm or injury. Chattel in common law is all property that isn't real property, like leases, animals, money. And yes, I know that animals not being counted as real physical property is like really messed up. And that's not how it should be, but that's a discussion for another day. So in this situation, conversion would be the intentional theft of the money from the Satterfield settlement by all of the defendants listed in the lawsuit. Yeah. Hope that helps. Okay, so the sixth cause of action for Palmetto State Bank: negligent hiring, training, and supervision. Now, don't know why it's out of order. Love this for me. So also on the 15th, Dick Poot went on the Today Show.
Joining us now exclusively is Alec Murdaugh's attorney, Dick Harpin. Dick, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Dick, you've prosecuted serial killers, university presidents. You've represented some characters over the year. You have to admit, this is a pretty unbelievable story. Your client claiming that he paid someone to shoot him to collect
Animals
$10
are
million in
holograms,
insurance money, and the
Lizard.
guy missed. Is that the
Animals are
story?
holograms.
Well, let me elaborate. On Monday, Jim Griffin and I, Alec's attorneys, traveled to an out-of-state detox facility where we actually had the first conversation we've ever had with him when he wasn't on opioids or oxy. And as a result of that, he clearly knew what he had done was wrong and explained to us a couple of things. One, the murder of his son and wife 90 days ago took a tremendous toll on him. His father died of cancer that same week. Most people couldn't get through that. He got through it with the use of opioids. And then last week, a week ago, actually, it was uncovered that he had he had converted some client and law firm money to his own use, and again, spent most of that on opioids. And on that Saturday morning, he was trying to get off the opioids. He was not taking any of them, was in a massive depression, realized that things were going to get very, very, very bad, and he decided to end his life. He believed that $10 million policy had a suicide exclusion. Suicide exclusions are only good for 2 years, and he didn't realize that. So he arranged to have this guy shoot him. Now, what's amazing about this guy is somebody that was providing, and by the way, Alex is totally cooperated with SLED. We called SLED. They didn't call us. And gave them the whole statement, indicated he called this guy who met him on the side of the road, agreed to shoot him in the head, and this fake car breakdown. 30 minutes later, this guy shooting him in the head. Didn't try to persuade him not to do it, didn't hesitate at all. And he did. There was an entrance and exit wound. It was, and Alec indicated he collapsed. He was blind for a while before he was taken to the hospital. So it was an attempt on his part to do something to protect his child. He didn't want law enforcement spending more time on this fake crime instead of focusing on solving the murders of Maggie and Paul.
Okay, so let's talk about Maggie and Paul here, Dick, because your client lied about the circumstances under which he was shot. It wouldn't be a stretch for folks to think that he probably also lied about the circumstances under which his wife and son were shot.
Well, and I've spent the last year and a half with Maggie and Paul and Alec. I represented Paul on the boat case, met with them dozens of times. They were very affectionate. Maggie and Paul and Alec all together, Maggie and Alec holding hands. He is totally distraught. We've talked to him at length about it this week. Clearly, he is distraught about their deaths. But he did not murder them.
So, Dick, he didn't murder them. Does he perhaps know who did and why?
I don't think he does. But Jim Griffin and I are working on and investigating an individual or individuals we believe may may have some culpability or had done it. And we're in the process of doing that. We're not SWED, we're not law enforcement, we don't have their tools, but we think we'll know this week whether the one suspect we're looking at bears further scrutiny, and we'll make that information available to law enforcement.
And what would the motive have been?
I'm sorry?
What would the motive be?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit.
What would the motive be, Dick?
Well, that would reveal who that person is, but it's personal. I mean, the motive would be personal.
These reports that your client stole millions of dollars from the law firm, did he use all of that money to buy drugs, or did he use some of the millions for other things?
The vast majority of it, as I understand it, was used to buy drugs.
That's a lot of Dick. That's a lot of oxy.
Well, okay. So let me. It is. I mean, but in his interview that we made him available for on Monday with SWED on the phone from the detox center, he explained he wrote checks for most of this. This is not. I mean, and gave them the bank accounts. Totally cooperated, and told them how to find out how much he spent, where it went, where the bank accounts were, what went in, what came out, and what was spent, checks written to drug dealers.
Do you fully expect that your client is going to be arrested in the near future?
Yes, I think he will be charged. I think that what he doesn't want, and we don't want, is an effort to deal with these issues, distracting from and using law enforcement resources that could be used to solve the murders of Maggie and Paul.
And again, to be clear, there's no connection between the shooting on the side of the road that he faked and the killing of his wife and son.
None whatsoever, except he was in a dark, dark, dark place and wanted to help his son in any way he could, the remaining son, Buster, in any way he could. And he thought this was the only way he could leave him with anything.
Alec Murdaugh's attorney, Dick Carpotlian, with us this morning. Dick, thank you. Thanks for your time, sir. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your...
Oh, fuck off, Al.
Joining us now exclusively is Alec Murdaugh's attorney, Dick Carpotlian.
So, Dick Poot did that. Should Dick Poot have done that? No, he should not. So, that evening, it was reported that Dick Poot had confirmed to CBS affiliate WSPA and ABC affiliate WCIV that an arrest warrant was issued for Alex on the conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, and he would be turning himself in on Thursday the 16th. A bond hearing had been set for 4 p.m. at the Hampton County Magistrate Court. So, also on September 15th, because again, everything is happening this month, Hampton County Coroner Angela Topper wrote a letter directly to Chief Keel of SLED following the filing of Bland's lawsuit. SLED announced that, based on the request from Coroner Topper and information gathered during the course of the ongoing investigations involving Alex Murdaugh, they were opening a criminal investigation into the death of Gloria Satterfield and the handling of her estate. Neither Topper's office in Hampton nor the Charleston County Coroner's office, according to the letter from Angela Topper, were able to produce a record of Gloria Satterfield's death following the 2018 incident, and public safety agencies had no records of responding to Murdaugh's address after Satterfield's apparent trip and fall, despite her needing to be hospitalized. Also of note, Coroner Topper stated that the death was not reported to the coroner at the time, nor was an autopsy performed. That the death certificate lists the manner of death as natural, but that is inconsistent with injuries sustained in a trip and fall accident. Something else to note here, we know from the wrongful death insurance claims that Gloria had sustained serious injuries in which she required surgeries before death. It is incredibly suspicious that she would die in the hospital following the trip and fall, likely from her injuries, and it was deemed natural causes. Now that's suspicious as hell. September 16th, 2021. Late in the morning, an SUV arrived at the Hampton County Law Enforcement Center. Alex Murdaugh was seen exiting said SUV shortly after it pulled up. Following Alex's arrival, SLED released a statement as well as the indictments for Murdaugh. The statement says that Alex was arrested in connection to the shooting incident on September 4th, in which he conspired with Curtis to assist him in committing suicide for the explicit purpose of allowing a beneficiary to collect life insurance. Chief Keel said, "I can assure you that SLED agents will continue working to bring justice to anyone involved with any criminal act associated with these ongoing investigations. The arrests in this case are only the first step in that process." Alex was charged with insurance fraud, filing of a false police report, and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. At his bond hearing, Hampton County Magistrate Judge Tonya Alexander set a $20,000 personal recognizance bond. Prosecutors had asked for a higher bond and GPS monitoring, but Judge Alexander noted that Alex had no prior criminal record and she didn't think he would be a risk to the community. Alex was required to surrender his passport to SLED and sign a waiver of extradition. Dick said that Murdaugh needed to return to his out-of-state rehab center before the end of Thursday to keep his bed, and he promised to contact prosecutors and investigators when his rehab stint was finished so they can figure out what to do next. The judge allowed Alex to go back, but said that if he leaves the facility without permission, his bond will be revoked and a bench warrant will be issued for his arrest. Alex did not enter a plea at this hearing. His next court appearance was scheduled for October 25th. Of note, Alex Murdaugh had no visible wounds whatsoever, despite the updated police report saying he had major injuries, and Jim Griffin telling everyone that Alex was lucky to be alive with his entry and exit wounds. Outside of the hearing, we learned that a SLED agent in a sworn statement said that Curtis fired one shot that only grazed Murdaugh's head on September 4th. Curtis Smith had his bond set at $55,000 during his brief hearing the same day. He said during his hearing that he planned to apply for a public defender, and he was also due back in court on October 25th. Personally, I would love to know which rehab Alex went to upon leaving the hospital, which one he was at when Dick and Jim visited him on the 13th, and who transported him from the out-of-state facility to his hearing. Because as John Marvin testified during the trial, he and Randy picked Alex up from the hospital on the 6th and took him to rehab. Then they picked him up and took him to the Florida rehab facility. But we also know from the Netflix documentary that John Marvin was seen on drone footage in September around those times moving guns from Moselle with Buster. So, like, what's up with that? September 20th, 2021, Mark Tinsley filed a Liz Pendens in Colleton County in regards to the Moselle property and the Edisto property. Because Moselle is technically in both Colleton and Hampton, both counties need to have one on file. Connor Cook filed his own lawsuit in Hampton County. In his suit, he alleges that Alex Murdaugh conspired with others, including attorney Corey Fleming, to frame Connor in the boating accident that killed Mallory Beach. Connor had trusted Alex to point him in the right direction and hired Fleming to represent him in the criminal case for the boat, since he and Paul were the main suspects following the investigation. Connor was asked to take a field sobriety test at the hospital that night. Paul was not. SCDNR never sought a warrant to compel the hospital, to draw Paul's blood. The hospital did anyway because of how he was behaving. The day after the crash, Connor told Fleming that Paul was driving when they crashed. Fleming instructed Connor to not speak with the police. The suit alleges that Murdaugh and his associates were orchestrating a campaign to have Connor Cook held criminally and civilly responsible for the boat accident. Connor hired a new lawyer after realizing Fleming had major conflicts of interest in the case. September 21st, 2021. Eric Bland located and turned over the missing judge's order, the $4.3 million settlement I showed you from 2019, to the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. Given the fact that SLED is not only investigating the housekeeper's death, but also what happened to the money in the subsequent insurance settlement, he handed it over. Satterfield's sons asserted they had never received any money from the May 2019 settlement proceeds, of which they were supposed to get $2.76 million. Bland had gotten a copy of the order from a lawyer representing Chad Westendorf of Palmetto State Bank, the man who had served as personal representative of the Satterfield estate. The order was signed by Judge Carmen Mullen. However, the document just says presiding judge under the signature without her name. The signature was also scrawled and not immediately recognizable as Mullen's. The order and other documents for this settlement were never filed in court, so there is no public record of how it was settled or that it actually existed. By all accounts, there was no pending petition to seek approval of the $4.3 million settlement, so the approval hearing should have never happened. A summary judgment, also on the 21st, was entered in the federal case against Alex Murdaugh, Buster Murdaugh, and the estate of Mallory Beach. If you remember, in September 2019, Philadelphia Indemnity Insurance filed in federal court saying that they were not responsible for coverage of Alex or Buster in the Mallory Beach case. A federal judge agreed with this and issued a summary judgment in favor of PIIC and declared that the policies at issue do not provide coverage and that PICC does not owe the Murdaugh defendants a defense in the Mallory Beach wrongful death lawsuit. September 22nd, 2021. Forge Consulting LLC, a Georgia-based financial firm that helps structure settlements in personal injury and wrongful death cases in South Carolina, released a statement in regards to Alex Murdaugh diverting funds meant for Gloria Satterfield's sons into a fake account under the Forge name. Quote, unfortunately, it appears that Mr. Murdaugh and possibly others working with him leveraged the Forge Consulting name and reputation by establishing a bank account titled Forge without our knowledge or consent. After Forge learned of the alleged account, they immediately reported to law enforcement and, quote, others who are investigating. Michael Gunn, Forge Consulting LLC's principal and senior settlement consultant, had ties to the Murdaugh family, according to posts on Maggie Murdaugh's Facebook. Oh, I'll do that. In January 2016, Maggie and Alex attended Michael Gunn's wedding to his wife Amanda at the Metropolitan Club in New York City. And a second picture shows Alex and 4 other people standing in front of a private plane. The caption reads, on the way home. Peter H. Wayne IV, Forge Consulting's general counsel, released a statement on the connection that read, quote, like with so many other members of the South Carolina bar, Michael had a relationship with Alex and Maggie. Unfortunately, we, like many others, are learning more about Alex's alleged actions, and to the extent they involve the unauthorized use or leveraging of the Forge Consulting name and reputation. We are committed to providing law enforcement and other interested parties with whatever assistance necessary as these unfortunate events are investigated by the proper authorities. Now, at some point between the time Alex got out of the hospital in Savannah and the 22nd, Mark Tinsley filed a subpoena to obtain the medical records from Alex's stay. He specifically requested any and all medical records, including but not limited to admission summary, discharge summary, and photographs. Tinsley even specified that he wanted to obtain these documents by 5 p.m. on October 4th, 2021. Tinsley also sent a copy of said subpoena to Alex, who did not take kindly, and filed a motion for a protective order and motion to quash record subpoena. Quash is used regularly in the legal filings and stuff, so I feel obligated to tell you that the definition of quash is to set aside or void, just in case you're confused. Now, the motion is very bare bones. The second part of it reads, this motion is supported by the South Carolina Rules of Civil Procedure applicable case law, and any memoranda or affidavit submitted in support of the motion, and any other such materials the court may receive at or prior to the time of hearing on this motion. And what that means is, I don't know yet what case law or rules of civil procedure apply to allow the stopping of this subpoena, but I'm going to go ahead and file the motion until I figure it out. Yeah. September 23rd, 2021. A power of attorney was filed in Hampton County. You see, on September 16th, likely sometime after his bond hearing, but before he went back to rehab, Alex signed power of attorney over to Buster. Am I back? Oh my God. Small human, go to bed. So, on September 16th, likely sometime after his bond hearing, but before he went to rehab, Alex signed power of attorney over to Buster with his lawyers, Jim Griffin and Dick Poot, signing off as witnesses. As I stated before, the South Carolina court system does not enforce things like this until the day it is officially filed, so it went into effect on September 23rd. What the power of attorney does is allow Buster to buy, sell, mortgage, manage any of Alex's properties, deposit and withdraw money from his accounts, and make decisions for Alex in regards to healthcare. The thing that Buster cannot do, which is listed multiple times in the filing, is make any decision or sign any document that removes, restricts, or affects Alex's right to a jury trial for any matter. With the knowledge of the lawsuits and the amount of money that people are going after at this point in the timeline, it is incredibly suspicious that Buster would be given power of attorney, especially since Alex was headed to rehab and hadn't even been arrested yet. He was awaiting his next trial. It is my belief that Buster and Alex were well aware that shit was going to hit the fan, and it was in their best interest to do what they could to mitigate the blow. Danny Henderson of PMPED filed a motion in the Mallory Beach lawsuit requesting to be relieved as counsel for Richard Alexander Murdaugh. A defendant's request for preliminary hearing was filed by Jim Griffin, in which Alex Murdaugh was seeking a preliminary hearing on his only 3 charges at the time: insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, filing a false police report, felony violation. In the state of South Carolina, pursuant to South Carolina Rules of Criminal Procedure, Rule Number 2, everyone charged in a warrant with an offense triable in the General Sessions Court, criminal court, is entitled to a preliminary hearing solely to determine whether sufficient evidence exists to warrant the defendant's detention and trial. If the probable cause, reasonable basis for believing that a crime may have been committed is found, it stays in the General Sessions Court. If probable cause is not found, the defendant will be discharged, but that discharge will not prevent the state from prosecuting the same offense again. There is also the option of the case getting reduced to a lesser offense. Statements under oath at a preliminary hearing by police officers can be used by the defense at a later trial. Generally, the arresting officer or the chief investigating officer must testify, and then the defense gets to cross-examine the officer, but the defense is not allowed to put up evidence during these preliminary hearings. On September 24th, 2021, a mortgage satisfaction was filed in Hampton County by Buster Murdaugh. The mortgage in question was from J.M. Boulware, being the borrower, and Alex Murdaugh being the lender. Face value of the mortgage was $970,354, with the contract stating that the principal may be up to 150%, making the value of that mortgage potentially $1,455,531. The amount that was actually paid to satisfy this loan is unknown. We don't know, but we do know that it happened and it was filed. Okay, so I'm going to cut it here at September 24th because my tiny human needs me. It's time for some cough medicine. It's time for cuddles. It's time for me to pack. Oh my God, I still haven't packed. Oh shit. Yeah, I gotta be at the airport in like 7 hours. So that being said, y'all have a great night. You'll have a better tomorrow. I love you guys. I will not be here all weekend. Y'all might catch me around Discord or like on Twitter or something, but I'm not streaming. I'm not doing shit. I got other things to do. So y'all have a great night. Love you.